it's arguable that Lord of the Rings would ever have been made if we had made Kong, and but more importantly, we weren't equipped to make it.
Welcome to an edition of Rewatch Rewind. Today, I am going to discuss how King Kong 2005 and the Lord of the Rings franchises are intertwined. I'll be breaking down the story of how King Kong came to the big screen through the creative lens of director Peter Jackson. So let's dive right on in. In 1969, an 8-year-old boy watches a movie made almost 3 decades prior, and he is absolutely captivated by the story of a colossal-sized ape. He had no idea that one day he would have the chance to recreate the magic of that very moment, but this time it would be for someone else. He was so inspired by the movie that he decided when he grew up, he would work in the film industry special effects department. As the years went on, his dream eventually changed to becoming a film director. In 1996, the now young man Peter Jackson began the journey to make King Kong come alive in the technology of the 21st century. But wait, hard stop. This story can't be that perfect. We all know that's for Disney. So, to be expected, there was one major hiccup. Universal decided they changed their mind. They're going to scrap their Monster Cinder film after, word got around town that production was already in motion at other studios for Godzilla and Mighty Joe Young. This is now kind of ironic in 2024 since Godzilla and King Kong are both featured in the same film that's being released later on this month. A lot of countless hours had already been put into the project by the time that Universal made the decision to stop production. So if you're curious to know a little bit more about how the team felt in that moment, like knowing that all their hard work was just going down the drain, I have the link in the description box for you. Really quickly, we're going to watch a clip of Jackson talking about how he kind of felt.
Sculpted this wonderful maquette of Kong fighting these 3 dinosaurs, this really big model that we gave as a gift to the studio. It was like one of my trips to LA to have a script meeting. I took this big model. I lugged this thing across in a carton and assembled it in the hotel in LA, and then took it to Universal and presented it to them as a thank you at one of our meetings. And then when they killed the movie, I called them up and said, "Send me my model back." And we got it back, and it's a model that's been sitting in the lobby of Weta Workshop for the last 8 or 9 years. And everybody that came to the workshop would go, "Oh, wow, look at this." And it was always a slightly bittersweet feeling because I look at it and it was always represented the film that didn't happen.
Some may call it very petty for what he did, but I say that he had every right to be upset and ask for his model back. If you look at the detail of that model, you can see just how well crafted it was, just how detailed that, just the detail, the artwork of it all that went into producing that. It was kind of like a snapshot of everything that the team had done and put into bringing the character to this big, character to the screen. So I would have been big mad too. I would have been very, very upset. At least initially, I'm going to be mad for sure. And I want my model back. Thank you. Imagine Peter Jackson's surprise when years later, he gets a call out of nowhere to ask to head up the film again. Mind you, by this time, he is that guy in Hollywood. He has dominated the box office over the last few years with the Lord of the Rings trilogy. So he got a little pull. He got a little power. So when he got the call, it really could have went one of 2 ways. He could have said, "You know what, Universal, thank you for this call. However, I'm not interested. You all played in my face before and I'm not doing it with you all again." Or he could have said, "You know what, I'm really hesitant about this. I got a lot of questions. I really do. I need to make sure that this is going to be legit and y'all not wasting my time again." It's kind of like an employer who interviews you, and you know the interview went amazing. You know you answered all their questions, like you were confident, you did all of the things, and then they turn around and offer the job to someone else. And then later on, it doesn't work out with that person, and then they double back to you to see if you're still interested. So when you're sitting on the phone and you're reading the email, reviewing the offer, do you forgive do you forgive them for that initial rejection and accept the job? I mean, personally, for the money that I'm hoping to make, I would forgive, but I'm not going to forget. I definitely need you to promise me your firstborn, like I'm Rumpelstiltskin, because if the project gets canceled again, if something happens and that offer letter just disappears, burn my number and any numbers close to it, because I don't want you to accidentally call me with the same foolishness. Burn it, okay? But childhood dreams conquer all. Peter's love for the big guy was enough to make him reconsider, and the intense process began all over again in 2003. Like I mentioned, a lot of work had already been completed in 1996, but even more work went into the final pre-production of the 2005 film. So initially, everything started off with concept art, getting an idea of how they wanted everything to look, and then they produced three-dimensional sculptures and made several paintings of Skull Island and New York. Apparently, that was around 5,000 paintings to be exact. Like I said, so much detail went into this movie. So much hard work went into just creating and capturing the ape that we all know and love. So Jackson, he was all right, a guy, my last name is Jackson. So, we all right people, and he helped his team out a little. And instead of giving them the task of finding a whole new location to go to, he returned to New Zealand to film. He actually discovered this location during filming Lord of the Rings. So it was only natural to run it back. It's working smarter, not harder, at its finest. One of the things that I learned during my research was that Peter Jackson was very hands-on throughout the process. There's a scene in the movie where Naomi Watts, she climbs up the Empire State Building, and that was not originally in the film. How that scene actually came about was that the cast and the staff decided to go on a tour of the Empire State Building, just doing some research for the film. Like I said, but just very hands-on. They went to go get a tour of the building, and they did a lot of climbing and a lot of exploring, and they noticed that a ladder was at the top of the of the building on the side. So nothing that they could see from down below or anything like that. They actually had to go closer to the top to see that. And they thought that it would really make sense for Naomi's character to want to keep Kong in her eyesight just because of her love for him. Like she wouldn't want to go inside of the building and climb up, which was the original idea, like go in and, climb up the stairs or take the elevator, whatever. Well, I guess the stairs maybe back then, but her character would want to keep him in her eyesight. So, it's just the little details that matter, and it really shows how dedicated Peter Jackson was to fulfilling his vision. Like, he let nothing go to waste, He made sure he left no stone unturned, because this was his baby. I think this really was his baby. Like, you got to think, when you are a child and you have all these dreams, one, sometimes they never happen, but also two, once they do happen, you're like, oh my gosh, I remember that moment when I decided that I wanted this to be my future. And how amazing is that? How amazing does that feel? In a way, Universal scrapping the 1996 version of King Kong turned out to be a great decision. Looking back, some say The Lord of the Rings might not have happened if King Kong came to fruition in the 1996 version. And they also say the King Kong 1996 would not have been as great because the technology came so far in that time span. It was around 7 years, but the CGI work was really more dynamic and allowed them to do a lot more than they would have if they had, produced a movie in 1996. So, all in all, things worked out as they sometimes do. But it still makes me wonder what kind of butterfly effect that would have had on this timeline. Who knows? Who knows? I appreciate you so much for going on this journey with me back to 2005 to revisit King Kong. I did not do my disclaimer at the beginning of this video, but if you made it this far, you have the right to fact check me in the comments, or if that's not really your thing, then just tell me what you love about this movie. If you enjoyed this Rewatch Rewind, make sure to subscribe to the channel. Thanks for stopping by.